one of the things that I assessed real quickly was the number of actual users that they had. It was a small operation, about 45, 50 people total. But of that, they only had 3 people that interacted with their ERP system. So I quickly came to the assessment that we don't need to try and bring any history, any activity. We're just going to roll out a duplicate to our USA operation. And so that's what we did, is every part of the setup, with the exception of the Mexican government requirements, we rolled out from US. And so that solved a lot of problems with training and everything, but it left this big 7,000 SKUs that they had that we needed to set up fairly quickly. And that's the product structures, the routings, and all of the activities. And in our US system, we use the full MRP, but we don't run MRP every day. We use that just for our purchasing of raw materials and pre-positioned inventory. But we do use all the product structures, the item master, the routings, for our special orders. Our special orders tend to be 48 hours or less. That's why we don't run MRP, because it just comes in too fast. And the other part is the average batch size is 4 to 5 pieces. So when our customer needs a gasket, as I often say when I was talking to customers, if they needed it tomorrow, they ordered it tomorrow. So MRP just didn't ever work for us, but everything else, and we added one thing that we also use comments. And that comments will describe a lot of the activities that we do with each product as we manufacture it. So the data loaders that we did, that allowed us to pull all of the data from our US system and pump it directly into the Mexican system. And highlighted this because unfortunately we learned a few lessons. Our people in Houston speak Spanish, but it's not the same Spanish in Guadalajara. And so we ended up having to pull it back out and put it back in with the correct pronunciation or words that they wanted to use for the shop floor there. Obviously, if you give instructions, but the people in the shop don't know what you're saying, you haven't really given any instruction. So it was one of those learning things where it was very easy to kind of course correct with each of these data loaders. And I know Alex is going to go more into the data loaders, but I can say that I mentioned that we kind of set things up in a slightly different way. Like we use tooling codes, but we don't use it for tooling. We use it on how we print. And so we'll take one work order and we don't print it on one page. We print them on up to 5 different pages, depending on where we want each page to go in there. For us, we do 90% of our labor feedback and our material issues as a backflush. It's only the 10% of the more expensive items or the more timely processes that we'll actually record the actuals on. And again, the reason we made that decision is if you're making 5 gaskets about that big, the total time to make it might be 5 minutes. I don't need to take a 5-minute break to go do transactions. What I need to do is have them finish it, and we'll just backflush it in the end. So we've made a lot of decisions, and those decisions have different items in the item master. Whether it be standard fields that we use like the tooling code, or we actually added about 15 or 20 what we came to call flex fields. We accommodated some of the extra fields that were in the database. We named them and we use them for specific entities. For the 32Soft data loader that we had, we call up 32Soft. We love your data loader, but we need to edit our flex field. 2 days later, it may have been 3, I don't remember. They sent back the new data loader with the flex fields in. So it was very easy for us to interact with how we got that information in there. And now we're able to pull all the data down, manipulate it as we wanted, change any of the language that we needed to in order to go to Spanish, and then pump it back in. The routings was one of the more challenging ones, because in Deer Park, Texas, the main facility, we have 90,000 square feet under roof, a lot of machines, 2 shifts. In Mexico, we have 25,000 square feet, 40 employees, and a lot fewer machines. That means not every process we do in Texas is done in Mexico. So we had to then pull the data loader, all the routings out that we were uploading, go through it, sort it, remove the ones that they didn't do, add the ones that they actually do, and then push it back in. But again, we were able to accomplish that all inside of about a 2 to 3 week period, where we were doing all of the data setup for them in order to get going. The longest part of our QAD installation or implementation was the Mexico government issues. We had the system up and running in about 3 weeks. So that was a very effective way for us to get the data in there and go from there. We also use a data loader on an everyday thing where we have our purchasing workbench. And that really just takes in all of the action messages into it and then pumps out the actual or puts in the PO. We then take that PO through a browse and send it to our sister company. Most of our purchases happen to our sister companies either in China and Thailand, and they produce our standard product that we keep on the shelf. Our North American operations are all made to order. We don't make something in North America that we end up putting on the shelf. We're only making specials every day. And then, obviously, I mentioned about the Spanish problem. But it was very good to be able to set up the whole organization down there, set up the part numbers, put their materials, their equipment into the bills and routings without having to use external consultants. But we were able to handle all of that with ours, and consultants, we only hired those for the Mexico government requirements.